So in today's video, we are going to be doing a 24-hour reading vlog challenge. However, I do work a 9 to 5, so we're not going to let that stop me though. I literally just got home from work. We are going to start off this reading vlog by finishing up the book A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my god! Guys, this book is so good! Okay, guys. I'm kind of mad, honestly. So basically, this is the first book of like a pretty long series, not gonna lie. But it's basically about this girl named Farah. She's a 19-year-old huntress. And so one day, Farah was in the woods hunting for like food. And she finds herself killing a wolf, right? So when she killed that wolf, she didn't really know who she was killing. Turns out, she actually killed a fairy, right? And so maybe a day or two later, someone burst into her little cottage home with her family and was like demanding retribution. They wanted payback for killing one of their own kind. So she gets dragged to this other world, basically this other land with this fairy who basically is like a beast. A beast showed up at her house with claws, fangs. He was ready to go at her, okay? But then as she's there in this new land with him, she finds out that her captor is not actually a beast. He can transform. He's also a fairy. I love reading this book after work because it literally puts me into a different mindset, a different world. I'm not coming home thinking about work. I'm not coming home like, oh my god, what do I have to do tomorrow? I'm literally like, oh my god, fairies. So as she adapts to her new world and her new home being there, she kind of starts to feel a little differently about the fairies, because before she got there, she's like terrified of them. All the humans are like terrified. You hear old legends and old stories about how they used to be so deadly, savages basically. But as she's there, she realizes like, wait, he's not necessarily a beast. Maybe everything I thought I knew is a lie. That's tea. Not only is she dragged off to this new world, but while she's there, she realizes there's this like shadow lurking in the corners that is kind of overtaking the fairyland. So not only did she not realize what was going on, she gets dragged there and now she feels like it's kind of her duty to like help save the fairy world. But like how? Like what do you mean? Like you are only a mortal, like you are a human. What are you gonna do? Anyway, I have 20% left of the book to go and I cannot wait to finish this book. I want to know what's gonna happen. Am I gonna be left on a cliffhanger? Because that would be crazy. But anyway, I'm gonna start reading. It is literally exactly 6 o'clock on the dot. I have more books planned ready for me to read. I'm gonna tell you the next book I get into once I finish this book. Guys, I am currently on chapter 35, page 304. There are 46 chapters in this book and I'm on chapter 35, so I'm like so close to being done. And like, oh my god, so much has happened in like the last 2 chapters. I have to keep reading, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, am I gonna be up all night? At least tomorrow's Friday. So anyway, without further ado, let's get back into reading. One thing about me is that like right now that like I can't even talk. Working a full-time job makes everything just way harder. Like I have to just, it makes everything a lot harder. I have to just plan for everything like so far out in advance. That's the only way I can be consistent. I don't know how to describe that. I'm just gonna live, you know? I want to live. Let's get back into it.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. Giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist myself at the spine.
Okay, so I finished the book, guys. I finished. Guys, Yo, I have so many thoughts about this book. Like, less than 10 chapters in the book. I loved it. I was raving. I was like, oh my God, you know, it's giving. But then it's like, how do I, I'm kind of mad, honestly. Like, let's talk for a second, okay? Book talk time. Like, bro, A Court of Thorns and Roses, it's a whole series. I don't think I'm gonna continue on with it. I think I'm gonna end it right here. I don't know. I'm torn. My heart is broken, honestly. My heart feels like in pieces. Like, so it started off so great. Basically, A Court of Thorns and Roses is about this huntress. As we get through the book, we start finding out like what the shadowy thing is that they're talking about in the synopsis about an ancient wicked shadow is growing and Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and whatever. So like that was cool and all, because the whole book I'm like also wondering like what the heck is happening and like why is everything like this, you know? I don't want to say I love that she got dragged to another land because that sounds crazy, but like I do love that she experienced, like she's a mortal human and she went to the fairy world. Like I absolutely love that kind of vibe. My imagination was soaring with it, right? By the way, let me just start off and say that I gave this book 3 stars. I'm basically getting on Goodreads and I'm leaving my review because it's good until it's not, you know? And I just don't think that was right. Like, I'm telling you, it was like the last 6 chapters of the book. So I get through all of this, like, oh my God. And then I started reading and I'm like, wait. It sounds very misogynistic. It kind of sounded like that from the beginning where like, you know, this man or this beast drags her to another land because she killed a wolf, okay? But then it starts turning weird because now like he grabbed her. She's not his slave. She's not a servant, but she can't go anywhere. I mean, she's in a whole different land. So what do you call that? I'm trying not to give spoilers, okay? Like this is really hard for me. On Goodreads, its ratings overall is like 4.2, which is not terrible. I thought about giving this book just straight up like 4 stars. 47% of the views are 5 stars, but then 33% gave it 4 stars. Okay, now as I'm scrolling through the reviews, I see some 1 stars, some 2 stars, 4 stars, 2 stars, 2 stars, 2 stars. I was hooked all the way up until the end, you know? That's the problem. Okay, that's tea. So one of my people that I love on BookTube, YouTube, is Kalila. She gave it 3 stars. Okay, so now I don't feel bad. Now I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in the world with this. And honestly, I love Kalila. I trust her opinion. But then Kira, I also like her. She gave it 4 stars. One thing I love about the book is that like it takes you on the journey. Like she is a normal person, you know, she's in the woods, she's hunting, it's cold, she's kind of starving her family, so she has to go hunt for food because that's the way she's going to survive. So she goes and she kills a wolf, right? I talked about this, I think, I don't know. Anyway, she goes off and she kills a wolf, but then that wolf ended up being a fairy, right? And so now this other fairy comes to her cottage demanding retribution and all this. The treaty was like, I'm gonna kill you or drag you to my land. That kind of seems like a weird trade-off. But the whole time, I'm not gonna lie, it just felt like what? Like it was saying everything except the thing, you know what I mean? While she's there, she starts discovering that the land is actually like crazy, like flawed. But what I don't like is like the whole, she's a servant but she's not a servant thing. That was also like, okay, whatever. I don't want to say you should read this book, but like go ahead and read it so that you can find out exactly what I'm talking about. If you know, leave a comment below, but like no spoilers, you know? She had to like do something at the end of the book and just basically to like save Tamlin and save the fairy land. That whole situation right there, I was like, that kind of seems wild to me. I don't like how it ended at all. I really don't like it. It didn't feel like it ended with a cliffhanger anyway, so I'm like, this is a series. Like as I was reading it, my heart, my inside was just like, what is this? Like what? I'm about to leave my review on Goodreads. Follow me on Goodreads. I'll leave my information below. This review says it was like, it was both horrible and incredible at the same time. Like I feel that they gave it a 2-star review. Like most books, the author starts answering all of our questions that we have about, you know, what's going on, the plot and all this towards the end. But I'm telling you, 75% of this book, you're just like, like what? Like what? Why? To each their own, you know. That's one thing about books. Some people love it, some people hate it. There are books that I absolutely love and people hate it. There are books that I'm like, this is so boring, and they're like raving reviews about it. So I'm like, there are billions of people in the world. We all are entitled to our own opinion. Now I was like, what am I going to read after this? I kind of didn't want to read any fantasy, so I picked up a romance book. This book is called Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I picked up this book because as I was reading the synopsis, it seemed like the most interesting to me compared to like Love Hypothesis and like Love on the Brain. I don't know why. I needed something that was different from this. But then I wonder, is it actually gonna be different? You know, because I started reading it last night, and right now I am on page 64. I read a little bit last night. According to my tracker, I have about 18 hours left of this 24-hour reading vlog, which is crazy. I'm like, 18 hours? Whoa. Let's talk about this book, Love Theoretically. This book is about this girl. She's a theoretical physicist named Elsie Hanaway, but she kind of lives a double life. She's an adjunct professor by day, but at night she offers up her services as like a fake girlfriend. People hire you to be their girlfriend. So because she's an adjunct professor, they don't really get paid that much money. She's trying to make up for her lack of funds by doing this like fake dating services. She ends up being a fake girlfriend to this guy named Greg, I think his name is. So Elsie goes to Greg's like family event. He's literally paying her to be his fake girlfriend at the family events or whatever. And whenever she's there, she meets his brother Jack. And like Jack just kind of seems cold and just like, apparently he's like a PE teacher. But we find out later, and this is not a spoiler, it's all in the synopsis. We find out that Jack is actually like in the science world too. She's like a theoretical scientist and he's like an experimental scientist, and like they rival, like they don't get along. Like in the science world in general, it's not just them two, it's like in the world of science. She is an adjunct professor at the school, or at these schools in Boston, and he actually is one of the physics head guy at MIT, right? So he is in charge of the whole physics department at MIT, and so she is trying to get another job because she doesn't want to be an adjunct professor. It barely pays her any money. They pay her so little money that she has to offer up her services as a fake girlfriend to supplement her income, to like make more money so that she's not like living on the streets, right? But you know, this job opens up at MIT. She applies, but then guess who's on the interview panel? Freaking Jack, who only knew her as his brother's girlfriend. But when Elsie goes on these fake girlfriend dates, she doesn't expose who she really is. She doesn't really say what she does for a living. She doesn't say like, I'm an adjunct professor, because like that would be crazy, right? She came up with this story like she's a librarian. Imagine seeing this girl that your brother is dating saying she's a librarian, but she shows up at like an MIT interview. You're like, what? So things are already kind of interesting. This guy Jack ruined Elsie's mentor's life. You have to read it to find out how or why. I found out why in like the first 2 chapters. She had no idea who he was at the interview either. Oh my god, it's like he can literally determine her fate. So she's like, in the synopsis it says, Elsie is prepared for an all-out war of scholarly sabotage. Let me talk about the things that are going on so far. I'm on page 64, and dude, these chapters are really long, which makes me feel like I'm not really reading that much, you know? Like my progress feels slow because of how long the chapters are. My only drawback so far is that I wish the chapters were a little shorter so I could feel like I'm making more progress through the book. So much happens within one chapter. I'm like, oh, they could have easily split up the chapter like in this part. So anyway, I'll catch you guys in a few hours. I forgot to mention that I'm also multitasking. I just put some of my towels that I'm washing in the dryer. So before I left to go to the store, I threw some towels in the washer. When I came back, I threw them in the dryer. For those of my friends who are also working 9-to-5 jobs and are always super busy, you have to multitask. You can't just sit and do one thing all day. You have to like read while something else is happening. And that's the only way to not feel like you're wasting all your time reading. Not that reading is a waste of time, but if you don't do anything else, it will feel like it is. Multitask, guys, multitask. Come to the park on weekends. This is not unusual. It feels so nice out here. It's finally not 100 degrees, so that's cool. It's like literally like no one's at the park, so I kind of like that vibe too. Like I get a lot of time by myself and I don't feel weird. I am on hour number 9, so that's cool. I am on chapter 11, page 140. Something just happened in this book that made my heart skip. So like, what's her name? Elsie was literally at like a faculty. It was like one of the last interview things basically she's at a party with the faculty. There was a person at the party who was also part of her like dating app, and then the person was like introducing her like, oh, this is Elsie, she's a physicist, and the person was like, no, she's not. And I was like, oh my god, is she gonna get found out? So it's like, what's gonna happen? Like, you know, she's living a double life, and it's kind of coming all like her worlds are colliding, and it's just like, what's gonna happen? She's been hiding the fact that she does this like dating service thing, rightfully so, because I'm like, that's not, as a physicist, I feel like it's kind of embarrassing to be like, oh, and after work I get paid to like go on dates with guys, and I get paid to be someone's fake girlfriend. Like, I feel like that sends a different vibe, you know? I wouldn't tell anybody either, you know? She's at this dinner with all of the physicists, and then someone says like, oh, I know you, like I went on a date with you. So I'm like, what's gonna happen? So obviously we gotta keep reading. So now we're gonna read. I'm not gonna lie, I love the humor in this book. And also, side note, I didn't think that I would like it because I don't typically like romance, because I just feel like it's too cheesy, or, you know, my romance life is not the best, so I'm always like, eh. But this, 10 out of 10. Let me not get ahead of myself, because I did that same thing for A Court of Thorns and Roses, and the last 6 chapters I was like, no. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll get back to like reading. One thing I love about the author of this book is that like, she describes the characters without describing the characters. She doesn't tell you in the first chapter like, this person is this person, they do this job, and you find out as you go, which makes you keep reading. Because as I keep reading, I'm finding out stuff that like, I'm on chapter 11 and I'm just now finding out about certain things about Elsie's life. I'm also finding out things about Jack's life. Like, I'm just like, most authors would tell you everything about the character right away so that you can kind of know what you're getting yourself into, but this, you have to keep reading to find out. I absolutely love it. Time to check in, guys. I read for an hour this morning, and dude, this book is getting a reaction out of me. There was an unexpected turn of events. Like, you know, some books are mad predictable. This one was not it. I did not predict that. Like, yeah, literally my mouth dropped. I was like, I cannot believe. You have to read it to get what I mean. One thing I love about this book is how I really feel like this book was written for me. Because like, if you know anything about like interviews and job interviews and the teaching realm, you gotta start out somewhere, right? When you're new to the field and you have zero experience, there's always gonna be someone with more experience over you interviewing for the same job that you're interviewing for, right? But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't interview just because they have more experience than you, because maybe they want someone who's fresh, you know? But I just hate that, because I remember when I had just graduated college and I was applying like every single day to multiple schools just to get an interview. Half of them wouldn't even give me the time of day. Half of them wouldn't even like open the email. Half of them wouldn't even like respond saying that they got my email. You know what I mean? I remembered immediately what it felt like to be fresh meat and fresh out of college with zero experience, and every job application is like 3 to 5 years of experience required. How do I get the experience if no one's giving me the experience? Me and my friends who had just graduated, we were talking about this all the time. How do you expect us to have experience if nobody's hiring people with zero experience? I get it, but at the same time, man, that was so toxic. Ali Hazelwood is so good at describing scenes and making you feel like you're literally watching TV. I am in love with this book. Like, I don't want to give any ratings yet because I always get ahead of myself and then I end up hating the ending, and then it's like immediately like a 3-star. But I'm gonna get to the end of this book today. So anyway, it is currently 1:33. I'm going to read for like the next hour and see how far I go. I'm on page 221. I have 380 or so pages in this book total, and I'm on hour number 12. But anyway, let me go read for a little bit and then I'll get right back to you. I literally forgot my book. My eyes are literally burning. I'm like really tired, but I'm gonna push through because I want to read more. Man, it is so easy to just come home and be like a couch potato. I'm not even gonna lie. But like I said, I'm gonna push through. I finished Love Theoretically last night, and this book is 5 stars in my opinion. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I'm not gonna pretend like this book is for everybody, you know, because, you know, to each their own. But as a person who doesn't read many romance novels, this one had me hooked. I literally read cover to cover. I absolutely love the characters. I love how the author like connects things. And I love how you have to read up until the very last page to figure out everything that's going on. I was on the edge of my chair. I was up I don't want to say all night because that's very dramatic. I was up until like 11 p.m. which is very late for me because I had to wake up at like 5 a.m. this morning. It's really hard to give a book 5 stars, but this one is it. I felt so connected to the characters, not only because like she was an adjunct professor, like teacher, and I'm also a teacher. The stuff that they were talking about in this book, that lifestyle of like being a teacher and like going on job interviews and knowing people, is all about who you know in that professional world. I felt like, oh my god, this is so, first of all, relatable, and second of all, accurate. The crazy thing about this book is that it was very like STEM heavy. So I'm not a science teacher. Despite all the sciencey things and the sciencey quirks and jokes and whatever, it still has an underlying message of like the academic world. You know what I mean? Like I literally was like, did someone write a book on my behalf? Like that was crazy. She's the ultimate people pleaser. That is why she's able to like shift herself so much to fit the needs of other people. Whatever they want, they get, because she is a people pleaser. I should have tabbed it, but there was one part in the book, it was like, it feels uncomfortable just to give the answer that I knew that they don't want. It's like if somebody said, hey, do you want to come to the movies with me? Even though I don't want to go to the movies, I might still say yes because I know that you want me to say yes. You know what I mean? People pleaser. Stand up for yourself and do what you want to do. It is so hard to do that if you've been wired to people please. I love how this author like humanized and normalized the fact that people pleasers do exist, and normalize and humanize the fact that I literally lost my train of thought. Normalize and humanize the fact that it's okay to not know. That's what I was gonna say. It's okay to not know what you want to do. When you have spent majority of your life being a people pleaser, trying to make sure everybody else is happy, it is so hard to flip the switch to go, well, what do I want to do? She loved Twilight, right? The Twilight Saga. She's a huge fan of them. And I also love Twilight. But then you have those people who hate the acting, they hate Edward, they hate Bella, they know that this would never happen, this is fake. Well, obviously, there are people that literally hate everything about Twilight. And then you have people like me who absolutely love Twilight. I saw every movie. I remember when I was in high school, me and my friends would go and see the movies. Like it was like a vibe. It was like Team Edward or Team Jacob, and like low-key I was Team Jacob, but I love Edward. They talk about that in the book, and like she loved Twilight, but her closest friend of 7 years didn't even know that. Her closest friend thought she liked some other movie genre which she absolutely hates, but she only stuck with it to please her friend. Can you relate to that or what? Let's talk about other things, other tropes in this book. The spice level, dude, it was so detailed. There was one spicy scene that really annoyed me. It was almost like enough for me to be like, okay, I don't like this, like this is just too much, you know. But then I understood why later. I really want you to read this book. Someone left a comment on my last video when I went to the bookstore to buy this book saying this is a really good book, and I agree with you. I finished it. My heart is full. So now what, right? How am I gonna top this? What am I gonna read next? I'll just tell you. The next book I'm about to read is okay, I was not expecting this father to be that cruel. Like, whoa, chapter 2, this man is awful. Trigger warnings. Here's what I'm discovering about this 24-hour reading vlog. Girl, guys, it has turned into multiple days, okay? I was like, let me see if I can read for 24 hours with my full-time job. Let me see if I can have a normal life with my full-time job. Even though reading for 24 hours isn't even normal, let's be honest here. It has been several days, but I'm still sticking with the challenge. I don't care how long. I just want to see how long is it gonna take me to like actually read for 24 hours. I think it's so fun to just like challenge myself to read, but it's also like, dang, I still have not reached that goal yet. Guys, I'm not even gonna lie, today really kicked my butt. Like, I am so exhausted, so tired, so drained. I have literally no words. I only have 3 hours and like 48 minutes or so left of this like reading vlog challenge, and I really want to get this book done today and like finish this challenge today. But man, I am so tired and just mentally, physically drained. My soul is annoyed. Some things at work really annoyed me, and I'm just annoyed. So one thing I've learned is that like I think reading immediately after work has been the best thing to do for me to get my brain off of work immediately. But today kicked my butt, I'm not even gonna lie. I can't believe this. Part of me feels like I'm being played. Like, is this part of the game or is this real? Is this real or is this part of the game? This is just part of the game, or is this real? My heart is racing because I'm like, is this real? I'm having so much fun reading this book. There was one point in the book where I was like, okay, this took a weird turn. But then all of a sudden I was like, oh, let's keep reading. Dude, I'm about to be up all night reading this book. And yes, I have work in the morning. I need to wake up at 5 a.m. The oven's ready. I need to eat dinner. But I can't stop reading. I can't stop reading. I've officially reached my goal of 24 hours. I'm so proud of myself. I feel like I'm crazy. Before I end this vlog, I wanted to talk about it, you know, because I feel like it's only right. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It wasn't bad. It was a pretty good book, but like the ending was just kind of like, what? But then like I love the epilogue. To be honest, the plot twist, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see that the way it was gonna end was how it was gonna end. I did not see that. Like literally my mouth dropped. I was like, but then when they started answering all your questions, you're kind of like, it wasn't given, you know? It just wasn't it for me. But once I started reading this book, I couldn't stop reading. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to keep up with the storyline and the adventure and the whimsical dream like things that were happening, and like, is this real or is this like part of the game? Like it literally says that, remember, it's only a game. And even as I was reading it, I had to go like, is this real, or like did this really happen, or like is it part of the game? Like what do you mean it's part of the game? So that part was really good. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know my thoughts on the book. I think it's a good read personally. Like I loved reading it. I read it like within 2 days, which this is probably the fastest I've read a book in a long time. And granted, it had a lot to do with me doing this reading vlog challenge. It would have been way harder if this book was boring. So I picked a good book for my 24-hour reading vlog. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this reading vlog. What a journey! A whole week later, and here we are talking about it. So if you have read any of these books, leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts on it. But no spoilers, of course, no spoilers. But just let me know, what did you think of Caraval if you read it? Did you love it? Was it like mid, or was it like terrible? What are your thoughts? And then also Love Theoretically. Did you read that one? And what about A Court of Roses and Thorns? Because I had high hopes for that one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video next week. Bye!